The wind tore through the trees like 1,000 knives, and snow whipped across the forest floor in white sheets. Ilara pressed her shawl tightly around her shoulders, feeling the cold bite through her thin cloak. The northern storms were unforgiving, and even those who had survived the harsh winter spoke of nights like this in whispers, as though speaking too loudly might summon the storm itself. Ilara had no one to shelter her, no family beyond the memory of her parents who had long since vanished. She lived in a small cabin at the edge of the cursed forest, a place the villagers avoided, claiming it was tainted by old magic. Some said she had the gift of warmth in her hands, the kind that could heal not only wounds but hearts. Others whispered she carried a witch's blood, though she had never harmed a soul. Tonight her usual routine had been interrupted by a distant, desperate sound, faint whimpers carried by the wind. Curious and uneasy, she wrapped herself in her cloak and followed the noise, the snow crunching under her boots. Soon she came upon a small clearing where half-buried shapes struggled against the storm. Wolves. Their fur was matted with ice and blood, eyes flickering weakly through the snow. She knew that at this distance approaching them was dangerous. Wolves did not often welcome humans, especially one alone in the storm. But something in their eyes called to her, a raw, trembling plea that stirred her heart. Ignoring the instinct to stay away, Ilara approached. She knelt in the snow, hands trembling but glowing with a warmth she barely understood herself. "It's okay," she murmured, voice soft but firm. "I will help you." The wolves did not attack. They were too weak, too frightened. She carefully wrapped them in scraps of cloth she had carried, lifting the smallest ones into her arms. One massive wolf struggled, its silver-gray fur matted, its body trembling violently. It growled low, almost like a warning, but there was desperation beneath it, a silent plea she could not ignore. With effort, she led them back toward her cabin, leaving trails of footprints in the drifting snow. By the time she reached the cabin, the storm had grown fierce, lashing against the roof and walls. She lit a fire, letting the warmth spread through the small space. The wolves huddled together near the flames, whimpering softly, their breathing shallow. She knelt beside the largest wolf, pressing her hands to its cold body. Slowly, heat spread from her palms into its fur, and the creature's growls softened into a low, trembling sound. Hours passed. Snow fell endlessly, and the storm outside raged like the howl of 1,000 lost spirits. Ilara whispered to the wolves, telling them stories of forests untouched by humans, of rivers that glimmered under sunlight, of quiet nights when the moon lit every branch in silver. She did not notice her eyes drooping, nor the exhaustion in her limbs. The wolves were safe, and for now that was enough. Then, just before dawn, something impossible began to happen. The largest wolf shivered violently, fur bristling as if fire ran through its veins. Ilara stepped back, startled, heart pounding. The wolf's body convulsed, bones cracking beneath fur and muscle. Its head lifted, eyes glowing not with animal instinct but something far older, far darker. Before her eyes, the wolf shrank, twisted, and reshaped itself into a man. Tall, regal, and terrifying, with eyes as cold as frozen lakes and hair that shimmered like silver in the dim firelight. He wore a crown made of ice, jagged and cruel, as if the storm itself had forged it. Ilara froze. Fear ran through her like ice water, but curiosity held her in place. She had heard stories of the wolf court, of kings who could command beasts and bend the wild to their will, but none spoke of one appearing before a mortal in this way. The man, the Alpha King, studied her silently. His gaze was sharp, assessing as if weighing her worth. Ilara felt both exposed and strangely unafraid. Her hands, still warm from healing, rested against the table. She had never seen anyone like him, not in the stories nor in her lonely life. Finally he spoke, his voice deep, carrying the weight of centuries and storms. "Who are you to touch what should have died in the snow?" I helped them," Ilara replied, voice steady despite her racing heart. "They were suffering. They needed warmth." The Alpha King's eyes softened just slightly, but his tone remained guarded. "Mercy from mortals is rare. Rarer still from one who walks alone in the world of men. You should not have been here." Ilara stepped closer, compelled by something she could not name. "And yet, you were here, and now you are alive. Does that mean mercy can reach even a cursed king?" A flicker of something, a surprise, perhaps admiration, passed over his expression. He circled the cabin, silent, his presence filling every corner, every shadow. "You do not know what I am. You do not know what you touch." I am bound to the storm, to the wolves, to the curse that has held me for centuries. No mortal has the right to interfere. I only wanted to help, she said, her voice soft. I do not claim to know the ways of curses or kings. I only know suffering, and the need to ease it where I can. He stopped, standing near the fire, silver hair catching the first pale light of dawn. You speak as if the world is still yours to touch. You do not know what you are offering by staying here. I am not afraid, Ilara said quietly, though her pulse raced. I do not know your ways, but I know that mercy is a light even darkness cannot extinguish. For a long moment, the Alpha King remained silent, his icy eyes locked on her. Then slowly he nodded. Perhaps there is truth in what you say. Perhaps the moon itself has guided you here. Ilara blinked. The moon? He smiled faintly, a dangerous curve of lips, as if tasting an idea long forgotten. The moon watches over the cursed, over the lost, over those who show mercy where none is expected. You have touched what few dare to touch. By dawn a choice will be made. You will leave and forget this night, or you will follow me, and enter a world beyond mortal reach. Her heart caught in her chest. A world beyond mortal reach, filled with beasts, curses, and kings. She could step back, return to the life she had always known. Small and cold yet safe. Or she could step forward into something terrifying and unknown. The fire crackled. The storm howled outside as though demanding an answer. Ilara looked at the Alpha King, seeing not just the man but the wolf that had once been. The curse he bore, and the depth of centuries pressed into his shoulders. Something within her stirred, courage, defiance, and perhaps a strange longing she did not yet name. I will follow you, she said, voice trembling but clear. I will see what this world holds. The Alpha King's eyes softened just enough for a flicker of something human to shine through. Then so it is decreed. By the morning light you will be Luna of the Wolf Court. Mercy has chosen its vessel. Outside, the storm seemed to pause for a heartbeat, as if the wind and snow themselves awaited the consequences of her choice. Ilara took a deep breath, stepping out into the snow once more, following him past the boundary of mortal woods into the silver trees and shadowed cliffs of the hidden kingdom. The wolves followed silently, their eyes glimmering with loyalty and something older, a recognition of the bond now forming between their alpha and this strange, mortal girl. And as the first pale light of dawn touched the world, the Alpha King looked at her, his voice carrying like wind over frozen mountains. You are claimed, Ilara. Until the curse is broken, until mercy and fate align, you are mine, Lunar of the North. Ilara's breath caught. She did not know the trials ahead, nor the dangers that awaited in the icy halls of the Wolf Court. But she felt the pulse of something stirring inside her, a warmth against the cold, a courage she had never known. And for the first time in her lonely life, she did not feel alone. The storm outside raged, but inside, a new bond had been forged, fragile, powerful, and destined to change the world of wolves and men alike. The hidden kingdom stretched before Ilara like a frozen dream. Silver trees arched high into the misty sky, their branches glinting with frost. Dark cliffs rose like silent sentinels over valleys blanketed in snow. Every step she took, the ground whispered beneath her boots, and the wind carried the faint echoes of wolves that were both guide and guard. The Alpha King, Kael, walked beside her, tall and silent. His presence was both comforting and terrifying. There was a weight to him that pressed against the air, a sense of centuries lived in solitude and command. The closer they drew to his castle, the more Ilara felt the pulse of power radiating from him, a dangerous rhythm that set her heart to racing. The castle itself was carved from black stone, jagged and elegant, rising from the ice like a crown of shadows. Wolves padded silently around its walls, eyes glowing like embers in the dim light. Guards, neither fully human nor fully beast, moved with uncanny grace, keeping watch over the realm. Kael's gaze never left her as they entered the great hall. This is the Wolf Court, he said, voice low and commanding. Everything you see here, the walls, the throne, even the snow, it answers to the Alpha. And now, to you, Luna. Ilara's breath caught. The word Luna rolled over her tongue like a secret. To be called that by the Alpha King carried weight she did not yet understand. A surge of warmth, pride, fear, curiosity, filled her chest. She was no longer the healer in the village, alone and unnoticed. She was chosen, claimed, and thrust into a realm where mortal rules no longer applied. The court was not welcoming. Wolves bowed low, but their eyes flicked toward her with caution, suspicion mingled with respect. Human-like figures, courtiers, of silver hair and wolfish features whispered among themselves. Some dared to glance at her with disdain, others with fascination. Cale's gaze cut through them, icy and unyielding. "She is mine," he said simply. "No harm will come to her while I breathe." Yet the court's unease was palpable. They had lived under Cale's rule for centuries, loyal to the pack and the throne but never to a mortal. To them, mercy was a foreign concept, and humans were fragile, weak creatures. To place one at the side of the Alpha King risked disorder, rebellion, and scandal. Ilara felt the weight of their eyes and the unspoken tension. She was aware of her vulnerability, yet she refused to shrink. The warmth in her hands, the same warmth that had saved the wolves, seemed to grow stronger here, as if the land itself recognized her gift. Days passed. Ilara learned the rhythms of the wolf court. The wolves that obeyed with a subtle glance, the courtiers who tested her patience, and Cale who remained aloof, a shadow at the edges of her vision. He rarely spoke to her directly. When he did, his words were brief, precise, and often edged with warning. "Do not presume to understand the ways of the pack," he would say. Or, "Mercy can be a trap, Luna, even for those who claim it." Yet at night, when the silver moon lit the frost outside her chamber window, she would see him alone, watching over the wolves, his expression torn and unreadable. And in those moments, she glimpsed the man beneath the alpha, the being cursed for past sins, trapped between beast and king. Ilara's curiosity drew her closer, and one night, she dared to approach him as he walked along the cliff overlooking the valley. "Why do you watch them so?" she asked softly. Kyle's eyes reflected the moonlight, sharp and cold. "Because they remember who I once was," he said. "Because they trust me even when they should not. And because I cannot trust myself." Her heart ached at his words. "You think yourself beyond mercy," she said gently. "But mercy does not belong to the innocent alone. It belongs to those who are willing to try." Cale looked at her, and for the first time his expression faltered. "And you? You are willing to try?" She nodded. "I do not know what will happen or what curse binds you, but I cannot turn away. Not from suffering, not from what is lost, not from you." He said nothing, yet something in his stance shifted, a subtle thaw in the armor of centuries. But peace was fragile. The wolf court was not entirely silent. Rumors spread like wildfire. The mortal who dared touch the alpha, the healer who claimed to bring warmth to wolves, the Luna who walked alongside a king. Courtiers whispered of weakness, of danger, of the risk to the throne. One morning, the storm that had raged for weeks finally eased, leaving the snow sparkling like crystal. Ilara had gone to tend to the wolves in the outer fields when a sudden roar shattered the quiet. She froze, heart hammering. A group of wolves, larger and fiercer than any she had seen, charged toward the castle gates. Their eyes glowed with madness, and their howls carried rage and pain. Kyle appeared beside her, moving like lightning. "They are sick," he said, voice sharp. "The storm's poison has reached them. If they fall, they will turn, and I will lose control." Ilara understood immediately. The same warmth that had healed before could help now, but it would draw attention, possibly endanger her. Still, she did not hesitate. Kneeling in the snow, she pressed her hands to the nearest wolf, letting heat flow from her palms into fur and bone. The wolf shivered violently, then fell still, calm at last. One by one, she moved among them, a small figure against the raging winter. Cale's presence was near, silent and watchful, his eyes flicking to her constantly. The wolf's madness abated under her touch, and slowly, order returned to the pack. But the courtiers had seen her. Their whispers turned to accusations. "She has bewitched him," one cried. "The Alpha is no longer in control." Kyle stepped forward, tall and commanding. "Enough," he said. His voice rolled like thunder, silencing the murmurs. "She has saved what is mine, yet she has done nothing unnatural. You who doubt her would see yourselves destroyed before you accuse her." Ilara looked at him, gratitude and awe shining in her eyes. Yet even as order returned, she sensed that the storm had shifted. Something darker had begun. That night, she awoke to a sound at her window, a whisper of shadow, a presence that did not belong. She rose cautiously and saw a figure at the edge of the moonlight. A wolf, larger than any she had ever seen, black as midnight, eyes burning red. It stared at her, and she felt a pull in her chest, a warning of danger she could not yet name. Kale appeared beside her silently, his hand brushing her shoulder. "The curse does not end with mercy," he said, voice low. "Every act of kindness will be tested. Every choice you make will matter. They will challenge you, and they will challenge me. And one day, you may have to choose between mercy and survival." Ilara's breath caught. "Then I will choose mercy," she said, though a shiver ran through her. "I cannot turn away from those who suffer, even if the cost is mine." Kale's gaze lingered on her, conflicted and unreadable. "You may not have the luxury of choice," he said. "The Wolf Court remembers what I was, what I have done, and not all of them forgive." A howl rose from the forest, deep and mournful, shaking the windows of the castle. The black wolf reappeared, disappearing into shadows as suddenly as it had come. Ilara knew instinctively that it was not alone. The moonlight outside painted the walls in silver and shadow, and for the first time, she understood the magnitude of what she had stepped into. This was no longer about healing wolves or surviving storms. This was a realm where loyalty was tested by fear, mercy was measured against power, and the bonds of hearts were as fragile as frost. Kale stood behind her, silent, yet she felt the weight of his presence like a shield. The Alpha King, cursed and mighty, had chosen her as Luna. But the court, the curse and the darkness surrounding him would not accept her so easily. And in the heart of the night, as the wind moaned like lost spirits across the icy cliffs, a voice, not human, not wolf, but older, whispered in the bayou shadows, carrying a warning that chilled her blood. Mercy alone cannot save what is bound by darkness. The trial has begun. Ilara shivered but did not step back. She had come this far, chosen this path, and vowed to face what lay ahead. The wolves stirred in the hallways, restless and uneasy, sensing the danger she could not yet name. And Kyle, silent but watchful, remained a shadow at the edge of her courage, a king who feared what he could not control, yet slowly, impossibly, began to trust the mortal he had claimed as Luna. The Wolf Court was restless. The curse had not weakened. It had only shifted. And by dawn, the fate of Ilara, Kale, and the wolves would be tested in ways neither could yet imagine. The night was still, but the air carried a weight heavier than snow or storm. Ilara stood at the edge of the cliff overlooking the valley of silver trees, the moon above casting its pale light over the frozen land. The wolves stirred behind her uneasy, sensing the dark currents moving through the Wolf Court. She had learned much in these days, of Kale's past, of the curse that bound him, and of the fragile thread of trust and mercy that connected them. Kale approached silently, footsteps soft against the frost. "The trial has begun," he said, voice low yet steady. "The court will test you, the wolves will test you, and even I will test you. Only if you endure can the curse be broken." Ilara nodded. Her heart pounded, not with fear but with determination. "I will face it," she said. "Whatever comes, I will not turn away." Kyle's eyes softened just slightly. "You do not yet know the full weight of what you choose. Mercy may save, but mercy may also demand sacrifice." Before she could respond, the ground trembled beneath their feet. From the valley below, shadows rose like smoke, twisting in dark. Wolves, corrupted and wild, moved toward the castle, their eyes burning red, teeth bared. Among them, the black wolf appeared again, larger, fiercer, and more commanding than the others. It was a sentinel of the curse, a manifestation of the darkness that had grown within Kale's realm during centuries of exile. Kale stepped forward, claws emerging from his fingers, a reminder of the beast he had once been. "They test me," he said. "And now they test you." Ilara did not hesitate. She knelt, placing her hands on the nearest wolf, letting her warmth flow through fur and bone. The creature shivered violently, then fell still, calm under her touch. One by one she moved among them, her power growing with each act of compassion. Yet the black wolf advanced, circling her with a predatory grace, eyes glowing like coals. Kale stepped beside her. "You must confront it alone," he said. "Only your courage and mercy can bind it. I cannot interfere without risking the balance of the court." Ilara took a deep breath. The black wolf's gaze locked on hers, fierce and unyielding. She felt its pain, its anger, its centuries of sorrow and rage. "I do not fear you," she whispered. "I only seek to understand, to heal, to restore what is lost." The black wolf lunged, but as it neared, her hands glowed with warmth. The energy she had carried all her life, the gift she barely understood, expanded, wrapping around the wolf like sunlight breaking through ice. The beast shuddered, then transformed, bones and fur shifting until the black wolf became a man, regal and shadowed, his eyes clearing of malice. Ilara stepped back, breathless. Kale watched silently, pride and relief flickering in his eyes. The trial had passed, not through strength, not through force, but through the mercy she had chosen. Yet the night was far from over. The court, observing from the castle halls, had not been silent. Whispers had turned to murmurs of discontent, and several nobles, bound by fear and loyalty to old ways, gathered to challenge Kale's judgment. They saw the mortal Luna as a threat, a disruption to their centuries-old order. "Ilara has bewitched the Alpha," one cried. "A mortal cannot claim the throne beside a king. She must be removed." Kale's eyes burned like frostfire. "Silence!" His voice echoed across the stone halls. "She has saved what you could not protect. She has bound the pack, healed the wolves, and restored order. Any who question her now will answer to me." The nobles faltered, but their anger did not vanish. They plotted in shadows, seeking a way to undo the bond between Alpha and Luna. Ilara felt their gazes, sharp and calculating, and understood the danger that still lingered. Mercy alone had not ended the trials. It had only revealed the next. That night, Kale took her to the inner sanctum of the castle, a chamber of crystal and silver, where the moon's light fell like liquid across the floor. "Here," he said, "is where the curse began, and where it may end." Ilara stepped inside, awe and fear mingling in her chest. The walls shimmered with frost, etched with images of Kale's past. Battles fought, wolves lost, lives taken in the name of power. She could feel the weight of centuries pressing down, a history of rage and sorrow that had shaped him into both man and beast. "You have seen only the surface," Kale said. "The curse is deeper than you imagine. It has shaped me, twisted me, and it will not yield easily. To break it, you must face not only the wolves, not only the court, but the shadow within me." Ilara's hands trembled slightly, but she placed them over his chest. Warmth flowed from her into him, and she felt the darkness, dense and heavy, coil around her. It was fear, regret, anger, a tempest that had been locked inside him for centuries. And yet she did not recoil. She held her ground, letting her mercy shine as a light against the shadow. Kale's eyes closed, and he shivered. "It burns," he whispered. "It is too much and too long, too deep." "You are not alone," Ilara said. "I am here, and I will not leave. Not now, not ever." The chamber trembled as the shadow within him resisted, twisting and howling. But her warmth, her courage, her choice to see him not as a curse but as a man, held. Slowly the darkness began to unravel, cracking and splintering until it shattered like glass. Kale collapsed to his knees, human once more, though scarred and weary. Ilara knelt beside him, hands still glowing, tears in her eyes. "You are free," she whispered. He looked at her, voice hoarse. "Free because of you. Not the moon, not fate, you." The wolves outside howled, a chorus of recognition and reverence, their loyalty undivided. The court, witnessing the transformation, fell silent. They saw the bond between Alpha and Luna, forged not in force but in courage, mercy, and compassion. Yet the moon itself watched from above, pale and bright. It had one final test. A voice, ancient and soft, echoed through the chamber. Balance must be restored. One must remain as guardian, and one must continue among mortals. Only then can the world endure. Cale looked at Alara, knowing the choice that lay ahead. The cost of this mercy may be yours, he said. Alara shook her head. No, you carried the curse for centuries. You are meant to rule and to lead. I can bear the distance if it restores balance. Cale's hand brushed hers, fingers lingering. You have changed me more than I imagined possible. Even as Luna, even as mortal, you have become part of this realm, part of me. I will not forget you. The moonlight grew brighter, wrapping Alara in silver radiance. Slowly she began to merge with the light, her form becoming ethereal yet not gone. She became the guardian of mercy, a living bond between the wolves, the alpha, and the mortal world. Kyle stood, the weight of centuries lifting from his shoulders. He turned to the court, his voice firm but gentle. Let it be known, mercy, courage, and loyalty are stronger than fear. Luna has shown the way, and through her this court is renewed. The wolves howled in approval, and the nobles, humbled by the sight, bowed. Even the shadow of rebellion had faded, replaced by a respect earned not through fear, but through the light of one mortal girl who had dared to touch what others feared. Cale walked to the cliff where he had first spoken to Alara, gazing at the valley below. The silver trees glimmered in the dawn, peaceful and still. Do you see her? He whispered to no one in particular. She watches, always. Alara's voice carried on the wind, soft but certain. And I will, as long as you need me. As long as the wolves need me. As long as the world needs mercy. For the first time in centuries, Cale felt peace. The curse had ended, but its lessons remained. Power was tempered with mercy, and hearts could endure even the harshest storms. The castle and the forest breathed as one, wolves and men bound together in a fragile harmony. Cale, the Alpha King, now truly human in body and heart, stood beneath the rising moon, knowing that the bond he shared with Luna, with Alara, would never fade, even if she remained a guardian in the silver light above. And in the quiet moments of dawn, when the wind was gentle and the snow sparkled like diamonds, Cale would hear her whisper in the breeze, a reminder that even in darkness, even under the weight of curses and centuries, mercy and courage could light the way.